Part 6. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 51. Night falls. Tonight is a dark cloudy night. There are low hazes in the sky. These hazes are extremely low. The sound of rumbling came from high in the sky, which was the sound of thunder caused by the collision of clouds. In the vast forest, a huge mosquito was flying in the air. The eerie bushes and jungles were still surrounding him. But now it seems that the forest at night is no longer so scary. It was not the forest that changed, it was himself. The unprecedentedly powerful body gave Jia Yan an overwhelming sense of security. The former small and weak male Anopheles sinensis has now grown to the point where it can ignore most spider webs. Okay, doesn't this seem very interesting? Jia Yan couldn't explain it. Anyway, he felt much safer at night. At nights like this, many of the threats he was afraid of in the past will no longer be threats. The mosquitoes that were once 1.5 centimeters in size have grown to the current size of 7 centimeters, and have even surpassed many creatures that could prey on him. After the second mutation, my lifespan is no longer at least 1 or 2 months. So, what can I do next? Jia Yan became a little confused. He was looking for the Siberian wild tiger factory in order to obtain the mutation effect of the purple-red liquid again, and finally extend his life and become more powerful. Now that this goal has been achieved, Jia Yan has fulfilled his original wish, gained not only a lifespan, but also a body far stronger than before. But while completing his goal, he suddenly became a little confused. What should I do next? I feel like nothing is exciting. Jia Yan has always been trying to survive. To put it bluntly, the full pressure of survival is the driving force for him to keep moving forward and getting stronger. Now that the pressure to survive has suddenly weakened, the mosquitoes don't know what to do. Going to the Siberian wild tiger factory again? It seems very dangerous. Last time I was almost beaten to death by the Siberian wild tiger and the man with glasses. Although I have turned into a giant version of a mosquito now, it is easier to be discovered by humans. Relatively speaking, and are more likely to be killed by humans. Jia Yan is powerful now, but that is for other animals. If the opponent were a human, he would still not be that strong, and even his enlarged body would create many unsafe factors. With a size of 7 centimeters, it is easy to be discovered no matter where it flies in human society. The small stature of the past was able to wander around human society and even ride on various means of transportation. But now, let alone using transportation, even if you fly to a human city, you might be chased by a group of curious humans as soon as you show up. After all, a 7-centimeter mosquito is much larger than many birds in terms of size alone. Spread your wings and straighten your legs. It can really block out the sky and the sun, with a coverage area of nearly 20 centimeters. After having a lifespan, Jia Yan seems not to want to take risks anymore. The front is afraid of wolves, the back is afraid of tigers. He had been afraid for a long time before, and he was afraid of going back to that feeling again. Mosquito has always had a goal after his rebirth. First it was revenge, then he found a factory to extend his life. Now, it seems that he has lost his goal. Hey, why are there lights in front? When Jia Yan's compound eyes sensed light, he discovered that lights appeared in the jungle not far away. He flapped his wings curiously and flew towards the light. In the jungle, 3 tents were set up in a straight line. In the largest tent, 4 teachers and students from Shanghai were sitting in it, discussing the next trip. This is the nearby map terrain. Have you noticed that according to the elders in the town, this terrain was once the battlefield of a fierce battle decades ago? There are even some war ruins in the nearby forest. Instructor Lin took out a simple hand-drawn map, which is just a daily routine for a person who has been doing scientific research in the field for many years. The appearance of this mutated bug is definitely not an accidental phenomenon. Now that we have seen a giant mosquito, It will only be a matter of time before we find more. After all, what the people here have witnessed, there is not only one giant creature, but also some such as myriapod centipedes, millipedes, etc. If we add the giant mosquitoes we have seen, then there is definitely a reason why these animals are concentrated in this place. Professor Lin, why do you think this is? Teacher Chen from the School of Communication asked carefully. Instructor Lin took a deep breath, and then said, "It's just my personal guess now. After thinking about these things today, I feel that there should be signs of man-made factors in it." Man-made. Several people were suddenly shocked. At the same time, a huge mosquito flew over from outside the largest tent. He looked down a few times to make sure there were no humans outside the tent. This small camp has a total of 5 people. 4 of them were discussing something in the largest tent, while the other man was sleeping soundly in his own tent. Jia Yan flew over just out of curiosity as to why someone would set up a tent to spend the night in such a deep mountain. Is it just an outdoor enthusiast? There was nothing going on, so he quietly clung to the outside of the largest tent, holding onto the top of the tent with 6 long legs, secretly listening to the conversations of the people inside. It's too early to be certain that it's man-made, but I thought about it. From a biological perspective, it's unlikely that so many different types of animals would appear in the same area at the same time. There's only one possibility. That means someone is causing trouble. The conversation in the tent shocked Jia Yan outside the tent. These people were actually discussing the issue of giant creatures. Sure enough, rumors about the giant creatures in the forest had spread. Jia Yan naturally knew that the giant animals in this forest were not products of nature. They all came from the factory of northeastern wild tigers. Of course, he wouldn't jump out and say anything to these people. There is no way to communicate even if I want to. It sounds like these people are here to investigate the matter of gigantic creatures, so I might eavesdrop and gain something. Jia Yan lowered his body lower so that he could hear the subtle sounds inside. Teacher, do you think someone is making trouble in all this? The medical level of making living things huge is too advanced. If it emerges, it will definitely be a technology that changes an era. Is there some secret scientific research institution here? Instructor Lin's name the student said in disbelief. It's definitely not a scientific research institution. Have you forgotten my identity? If there is any scientific research institution here, how come I don't have any news? Instructor Lin glanced at his student, a sense of professional pride, which made people deeply understand. Arrive. However, no one in the tent took his words as a joke, because Teacher Lin was qualified to say such things. My guess is that this organization is not an official force now. It may even be not a private scientific research institution, but comes from decades ago, during the war-torn era, Instructor Lin said decisively. When he said this, not only were everyone in the tent surprised, but even Jia Yan, who was at the top of the tent, was shocked, relaxed, and almost rolled off the tent. Perhaps other people in the tent just thought that Instructor Lin's speculation was absurd and bold. But Jia Yan knew that the 3 factory buildings of the Northeast Wild Tigers were basically transformed from ancient military buildings, and there were even some traces of war on them. There are bullet holes in the walls. Instructor Lin in the tent continued, "Don't think you don't believe it. I've told you before. There used to be a war near here. We have reason to suspect that the war will be in this place. The secret research institute of a certain country in the forest was destroyed and even gradually forgotten. Then, the items made by those technologies were left until now, and they exploded. The Japanese country must have done it. Back then, they established a hospital to study biological viruses and conducted experiments on Chinese people. The biological mutations here must have been caused by them." Unexpectedly, the young male student in the tent was an angry youth, and he looked very angry at this time. Teacher Lin glanced at his student speechlessly. He was a little helpless. This student was like this. Every time there was an academic exchange, as long as there were Japanese people or Japanese students, he always refused to participate. It's not certain whether it's a Japanese facility or not. I think if those facilities are really operating at this time, someone should be causing trouble. Our first step is to find this facility first. What will happen then? If it is not a research institution left by the Japanese, then the truth will be revealed, Instructor Lin said. But, if there are really human traces inside, will we be in danger? At this time, a somewhat quiet young female voice sounded in the tent. This voice sounds familiar? Jia Yan was startled. However, there were so many people with similar voices in the world. Jia Yan just had a slight thought of déjà vu, and then he was attracted by the discussion inside. I don't know if there will be any danger. If you are worried, you can choose to leave. I will search alone, Instructor Lin said in a very firm voice. Otherwise, let's notify the police or relevant units first. It's not a big deal for us to look for it ourselves like a headless fly. Teacher Chen was also slightly nervous when he spoke. Yes, but we must find that place before waiting for help, otherwise if the other party hears about it, it will alert the enemy. Instructor Lin agreed with others' suggestions, but still insisted on searching first. This Instructor Lin seems to be quite stubborn. After eavesdropping for a while, Jia Yan flapped his wings and flew up from the top of the tent. Because the meeting is almost over in the tent. I didn't expect to hear such news. The factory, what kind of existence is it? Find out at Chuyuan whether it is the same as what this Instructor Lin said decades ago. A research institution left behind by a certain country or force during the World War. Now, it was just reopened by the Siberian wild tigers. Jia Yan was soaring in the night sky with some uncertainty in his heart, and his curiosity was aroused. He wants to know the answer to the truth, but taking the risk to explore the factory is extremely dangerous for him. So back to the old topic, if he wants to live quietly and peacefully, he should stop taking risks. And exploring the factory is definitely very dangerous. Just when Jia Yan couldn't make up his mind. Zhizzy. A familiar sound reached his hearing organs. What? Jia Yan was shocked and quickly looked back. Bat? To be continued. Please collect it. The increase is really too low, please collect it. Thanks to the I laughed and cried and forgot reward with 100 starting coins that refreshes the screen. As well as the rewards from book friends such as Oh My Son, The Tiger Who Eats Pigs, Ice of the Century, Book Friends 1508142029014997, Poguo, The Depressed Fool, The Blood and so on. Thank you. In addition, I would like to thank the book friends at Chuangxi. Yesterday, someone reminded me that this book has been supported by many readers at Chuangxi. There are also 2 book friends who rewarded it. Thank you. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin Yu. Chapter 52. The bat screamed high-pitched, whistling and rushing from a distance. Perhaps this bat just treats Jia Yan as an ordinary mosquito, so when it gets close, it will definitely be surprised that the object it preys on is more than 100 times larger than ordinary food. It just so happens that I don't have a suitable opponent. If you want to come, let's fight. Jia Yan flapped his wings violently in the air, turned his body 180 degrees, and charged towards the bat. He felt ruthless in his heart. This would be a feat for him. Face-to-face combat with a predator for the first time. Compared with bats, the previous grasshoppers and cicadas were vegetarian animals and had no attack power at all. Jia Yan's killing of them is not actually worthy of praise. But this time, the one who came here was the culprit who had been hunting him down several times, the bat. Jia Yan can be said to have a deep hatred against this type of natural enemy. When I first became a mosquito, I was scared to death by a bat that night. After that, I stayed in human towns and did not dare to go out into the wild. Then, when he first came to this forest, he was chased by a bat again, which drove him to pieces. In the end, he had to use human wisdom to lure the bat into a tree before he could escape. This time I have grown into a super version of the giant mosquito. How dare you come here? Do you think I am easy to bully? Jia Yan can be said to be extremely jealous when he meets his enemies. Of course, maybe this bat doesn't recognize him. The two creatures were approaching quickly. At this moment, the bat opposite seemed to finally notice that the familiar figure of food was getting bigger and bigger in its biological radar system. The next moment, the bat was so horrified that he wanted to turn back. It was almost startled. This mosquito was actually about the same size as it. With its 6 long legs that were much slender than other creatures, it looked several times bigger than it. But when it moved, the distance between the two sides was already very close. Jia Yan was not polite and grabbed him hard with 6 long legs. He was extremely focused, because the bat he faced this time was capable of attacking. However, when Jia Yan was barely able to catch Jia Yan's front legs on his body, the bat opened its mouth and bit him. The bat's teeth are very sharp, and Jia Yan is not sure whether his long and slender exoskeleton can withstand its bite. So he decisively withdrew the pair of long legs, and the 4 middle feet and hind feet underneath were instantly caught on the bat's legs. The time for the cross in the air was very short. Jia Yan just caught the bat's leg with his middle and rear feet, and the two had already crossed each other. Squeak, the bat's fierce scream echoed through the night. After Jia Yan grabbed the opponent's leg, his long legs refused to let go. The 4 long legs tightly wrapped the bat's legs and hung it to fly. The bat was dragged upside down and flew for a moment, and its body immediately arched up, trying to bite Jia Yan's feet with its teeth. At this moment, Jia Yan decisively let go of his long legs and let the bat fall freely. The battle in the air was extremely short-lived. At the last moment, Jia Yan increased his flying speed to the limit of about 70 km per hour. This extreme flying speed is enough to throw away objects. This is what happened to the bat he was holding. There was a pop sound. Due to the force of inertia, this bat was smashed to the ground. It kept tumbling but could not stand up. Obviously injured. Jia Yan's heart felt cold. After spinning his body in the air, he flew towards the bat on the ground again. Zhizzy. This injured bat kept flapping on the ground. Its right wing could clearly be seen with a strange twist, and it was obviously broken. Jia Yan didn't care about this. He flew directly to the top of the opponent's head. The tail needle on his abdomen stood out. One stab. Zhizzy. The bat screamed. Since Jia Yan was attacking the struggling bat on the ground while flying, this attack was not very accurate and only hit one of the bat's wings. This wing was pierced instantly. The bat howled miserably, but its mouth reacted very quickly, and it immediately followed the tail needle that Jia Yan was about to retract and took a bite with all its strength. Not good. Jia Yan's heart skipped a beat. He felt severe pain coming from the tail needle area. The tail needle is injured. He quickly flapped his wings and flew high. The low haze in the sky is getting thicker and thicker, and it looks like a heavy rain will fall soon. And in this bad weather, the battle between a mosquito and a bat has reached its hottest moment. Flying high in the sky, Jia Yan looked down and saw that there were teeth marks on his tail needle. Although his exoskeleton was somewhat damaged, it was not serious. His tail needle was the place with the greatest enhancement of the second mutation among all the organs in his body. It seems that it can indeed stand the test. But he was still injured after all. Jia Yan was hovering in the air. The bat below, with both wings injured, was lying on the ground, its head facing the sky, staring at Jia Yan flying overhead, constantly showing its teeth and squeaking. It is threatening this opponent, which in its view is already very terrifying. Maybe this bat doesn't know that even if it drives away its enemies and suffers heavy injuries, it will still end up with a tragic death. Either they themselves are seriously injured and die, or they are eaten by other predators in the forest. but Jia Yan won't let it die in those two ways. He wants to kill this bat himself. The bat keeps raising its head and grinning, but there is always a time when it gets tired, and that's when it lowers its head. Jia Yan's body fell quickly. He didn't use his long legs to avoid the bat's sharp teeth, but suddenly pressed his two front feet against the bat's head. The huge resistance came, and the bat was about to turn its head in an instant and bite the two front feet that Jia Yan was protruding from. If two are not enough, then four. If four is not enough, then six. All the feet should be suppressed by me. Jia Yan's whole body was pressed up. At this moment, the ferocity in his bones was revealed again. It was enough to fight his opponent until he was seriously injured, but he still tried his best to kill the enemy completely. It turns out that this is what fighting feels like, very exciting and very enjoyable. Jia Yan likes this feeling of fighting in life and death. The six long legs, carrying the impact inertia from top to bottom, exploded onto the bat's head with all their strength. The opponent's mouth was open, but at that moment, he was suppressed by Jia Yan's six long legs and could not bite any part of Jia Yan. Prick. At this moment, the tail needle on Jia Yan's abdomen suddenly pierced. Squeak. The bat suddenly burst out with violent force, and used its hands and feet to throw Jia Yan, who was pressing on him, completely away. Jia Yan threw himself and rolled on the ground, causing a few fallen leaves to fly all over the sky. A few seconds later, Jia Yan climbed up from the ground. He looked at the bat writhing on the ground. Just now, he stabbed with all his strength, piercing the bat's chest, and his heart was probably broken. Jia Yan watched for 10 seconds, and then the bat slowly stopped moving. Maybe when it dies, it will regret how it provoked this weird prey in front of it. Died. Jia Yan was silent for a while, then staggered forward. Due to this battle, he had two minor bite marks on his tail needle, and one of his middle feet felt a little sprained, and he couldn't use any strength now. It can be said that it was a miserable victory. I'm still not strong enough. I even defeated a bat so miserably. Why do I still claim to be strong? So, I want to become stronger. I have to go to the Siberian wild tigers factory again to try to see if I can mutate for the third time. Otherwise, even if I live a few more years in the future, I will just be a giant mosquito hiding here and there, as timid as a mouse. All the confusion in Jia Yan's heart disappeared, and the look in his eyes was firm. He finally decided on the path he wanted to take in the future. He's going to start getting stronger. Become a mosquito born for battle. From now on, I will no longer be afraid of bats, birds, or don't even have to be afraid of humans. The low haze in the sky finally gave way to traces of cold water, falling towards the earth. Rain, drop by drop. Jia Yan bathed in the falling raindrops and put his mouthparts on the bat's abdomen. He wants to suck blood. This bat will become the first blood-sucking prey he obtains by relying on his own strength. Because of his size, the possibility of Jia Yan secretly sucking blood has been greatly reduced in the future. If he doesn't want to really wrong himself and suck the juice of those plants, then he can only defeat each opponent, kill them, or beat them to the ground. Maybe he would suck blood for himself honestly. The mouthparts were inserted into the heart of the bat. There was a wound pierced by the tail needle, and blood was constantly overflowing. The mouth needle does not need to be inserted, it just sucks continuously at the wound site. If there is no more blood, stab the bat into the body and try to suck all the blood into your abdomen. Happy. Bat blood might not really be that delicious. But the taste of the first prey caught by oneself is definitely different when smoked. From now on, I am no longer a prey, but a predator. I am no longer a weak animal, I want to be the strongest predator. I can suck the blood of any animal in the world. Even if it is a lion or a tiger, I will definitely be able to suck it one day. If you dare not suck them for me, beat them until they suck them for me. But to do this, I have to be stronger. Because I am a unique mosquito with a human soul. Now that I have mutated to this extent, why do I continue to endure it? Why can't I think about higher level things? How stupid, I was still confused before. Isn't the purple-red liquid in the northeastern wild tiger my great blessing? I hope it will allow me to continue to mutate. Although this possibility is not high, but, I have to try. Hwa hwa hwa. The raindrops in the sky, from a gentle drizzle at first, turned into a downpour in an instant. Raindrops as big as rice grains hit Jia Yan's current hard shell, then slowly slid down along his streamlined body and fell to the ground. Amidst the rumbling sound, a white lightning bolt tore the sky apart like a giant dragon piercing the sky. Under the white light, there is a huge Anopheles sinensis on the ground, with two tentacles pointing towards the sky. At his feet is a dark bat that died in battle. The dead body complements the body of the giant Anopheles mosquito. Under the white light lightning, it is extremely eerie and penetrating. To be continued. I'm a little disappointed. The short message on the website came today, and it's just a small recommendation next week. This is because the collection performance this week is not good. I'm really disappointed. Please collect it again. Book friends who want to read and update this book must remember to come to Kidian to collect this book. If the recommendation next week is still not strong, then this book. Okay, let's not talk about it. Thanks to Oh My Bastard, Please Call Me a Big Monster, Ice of the Century, I laughed so much that I forgot about it, Angry Kang Long, the uncle born in the ADS Menying Luoluo and other book friends. Reward. I'm surprised, there are so many book friends who have commented on this book. Why can't it be compared to those books where no one left a comment or commented on it? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 53. The rain in midsummer is fast and heavy. The heavy rain falls, covering everything in the world. The trees in the forest drop water droplets bit by bit, and these water droplets will become the source of moisture for the trees, making them greener and greener. In such a storm, a huge Anopheles sinensis mosquito measuring 7 to 8 centimeters was flying in the bad weather. Jia Yan was bathing in the torrential rain, not caring about the raindrops falling from the sky. His dark body will only look even brighter after being hit by the heavy rain. After several battles today, Jia Yan fully realized his current strength and also determined the path he should take in the future. I want to continue to get stronger. Otherwise, no matter how long I live, if I just hide in the mountains and forests, what kind of life is that? I almost became timid, but luckily I repented in time. Jia Yan's body is full of energy now. Although he is injured, he feels that he can still move. The blood in a bat's body is only enough for him to drink half full, but this is enough to consume energy for a long time. The first blood meal after the second mutation makes the mosquito immediately full of vitality. Even the two injured parts no longer hurt so much. These two wounds don't look very serious. Jia Yan assesses his injuries after fighting with the bat. You can feel the feeling in your feet now. You may wait for a while and it will recover. But the two bite marks on the tail needle are not that easy to heal. Xiao He succeeds and defeats Xiao He. Although the hard exoskeleton is stronger in fending off enemies. But if it is damaged, it is not so easy to heal. That purple-red liquid, even if it can't help me go any further, will definitely have a certain healing effect. After all, it can mutate my body to such a huge size. I don't believe that it has no effect on the damage to my body. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed. He decided to rush to the Siberian wild tiger factory to see if there was any chance of getting the purple-red liquid. Of course, this time will be more dangerous than last time, and his huge size will bring him a greater potential crisis. But this time, Jia Yan no longer flinched. Cringe, just be a regular mosquito. With such a huge stature and combat power that can rival bats, the Mosquito King may be everywhere he goes. But if he is determined to make this life wonderful, then he must fight for it. Jia Yan, who obviously thought about this, chose the latter. The downpour is like the water of the Milky Way pouring down from the sky. The clear and translucent raindrops wash away the lead and make the forest at night glow with a new round of vitality. After turning into a giant mosquito, Jia Yan's flying speed increased a lot, and he soon approached the Siberian wild tiger's factory again. After Jia Yan's fuss a few days ago, this factory seems to have changed a little. From a distance, Jia Yan could see that the three ancient buildings of the factory were a little different. Hey, the doors and windows are actually sealed. Jia Yan flew to a location 10 meters away from the factory wall, and then hid in a tall tree, looking at the changes in the factory in surprise. The doors and windows of the building that was used as an office building were sealed with aluminum alloys. Even the evolved cockroaches could not easily bite through them. There are also other changes. It seems that even the door through which workers enter and exit has been turned into a heavy safety door. It seems that more mutated creatures must have been born in the past few days, and the Siberian wild tigers are completely panicked. Jia Yan judged. In fact, his judgment was not without reason. If this has always been the case in the Manchurian wild tigers factory, then according to what Jia Yan saw, mutated creatures should have long been spread in the nearby forest. After all, the defenses in the factory did not seem to be very complete in the past. Therefore, he judged that although mutated creatures may have appeared in factories in the past, they were definitely not as exaggerated as recently. I wonder what happened that caused these creatures to increase? Is it a problem with the ingredients of the liquid? Or something else? What Jia Yan didn't know was that the factory was already in complete chaos. In the two closed buildings, one of them was already in trouble. More than 20 workers wearing protective clothing and looking closely guarded gathered at the entrance of the building. "Director, please let me out. I don't want to do this job anymore." "Yes. I quit. Yesterday, Lao Chen was bitten by the centipede and he was dying. Tell me, did he die when you took him away? And Xiao Li didn't come back last time. Is it because he died too? No matter how high the salary here is, we can't make us work hard. I don't want this month's salary. Factory manager, please open the door for me." Yes, I don't dare to do it. There are so many monsters coming out every day. You must not be making medicine. Don't do anything to harm people. We will not be your murderous assistants." The Siberian wild tiger, with 7 or 8 of his men, stopped in front of the more than 20 workers, his face as gloomy as water. His grand plan has just begun to take off, and it hasn't been long since it started. It was going smoothly at first, and even an important person like Senior Junza was recruited by him and is now performing tasks outside. But now there is such a flaw in the place where we started. "Don't shout, any of you," the Siberian wild tiger shouted with an ugly expression. The voice of this northeastern man is naturally extremely rough, and the northeastern wild tiger has an innate bearing that makes people involuntarily dare not disobey. The more than 24 workers stopped shouting and looked at the factory director who, although young, was already rich and wealthy. Even if you have money, you can't force others to do such extremely dangerous work, right? No matter how rich we are, you can't stop us from leaving. That's what some workers think. The Siberian wild tiger said after suppressing people's shouts. "Every one of you signed an agreement. If you want to leave now, you will have to pay 3 times the liquidated damages, at least 30,000 for each of you. I also think about everyone. We all have families to support, so it is not easy to make some money. Actually, I don't care if you leave, but I don't want to waste 2 days recruiting people. Besides, you said that old Chen Zili is dead, They are all fine, they just have to stay in the hospital for a few days for observation. This is a factory. Seeing that they were injured, I was afraid that there would be any bad effects in the future, so I paid for them to see a doctor, who told me that they were all dead. It's really unreasonable. After the Siberian wild tiger roared a few words, some people below became dubious. Really or not, director, please hang up the phone immediately and call Xiao Li and the others. Only when we hear what they say can we feel at ease. Okay, Siberian wild tiger took out his mobile phone and pressed a certain number. A worker stood nearby and looked at the person who pressed the button. It was indeed Xiao Li's name on the contact list. As for the detailed mobile phone number, before I could look at it, the Siberian wild tiger held the phone to his ear and listened to the other party's ringtone. Hello, not twice, a voice came from the other side. The northeastern wild tiger pressed the external voice button again, and the voice "Hello, director" came from the phone, which was clear enough for everyone to hear. Don't tell me, the voice is really similar to Xiao Li's. Xiao Li, this is Dang Sheng. How are you these days? Why didn't you contact me the last time you went out? The Siberian wild tiger didn't speak, but a young man standing next to him, looking nervously at his cell phone, shouted. Big Shed, I will go back in 10 days and a half. I went to your house yesterday to meet your wife. She said that you are making so much money now and living a good life. Let you work in the factory with peace of mind. Try to get a formal job next year. I understand. If you have time, tell her that we are a high-tech factory and no contact with the outside world is allowed. I will hang up the phone with her next month and ask her to take good care of her son. She shed tears on the verge of tears. Out. Okay, Xiao Li, I'm the factory director. Northeastern wild tiger took the phone at this time and said to the other end of the phone. Ah, hello, director, I really have nothing to do. It's such a waste for you to arrange for me to live in such a good ward, Xiao Li said nervously on the other side of the phone. It doesn't matter. The medical security of each employee is the most important indicator in the factory. You can recover well there and stay in the hospital for 10 days and a half. No matter what illness you had before, the factory will treat you well. The wages will still be paid to you, do you understand? The northeastern wild tiger ordered very forcefully. This, okay, the factory is really nice, thank you, director. Xiao Li on the other side of the phone was almost moved to tears. Beep. The Siberian wild tiger presses the shutdown button. Everyone has heard it? Okay, let's all go back to the factory. The machines are left open and open. Every second is money. Everyone works hard. After this half-month increase in production, I will give you let's take a paid 1-week holiday for everyone so that everyone can go back and reunite with their families. It's a 1-week paid holiday. I'm so envious of you. Next time our administrative staff will also be transferred to your workshop. A very ruffian employee standing at Northeast Yahoo expressed his surprise in an exaggerated way. After hearing the voice of Xiao Li and getting the personal assurance from the factory director, although some workers were still doubtful, others had returned to work, and these people had to frown and walk to their posts. Liuzi, your brother's imitation is absolutely amazing. Go back and tell him that I, the Northeast wild tiger, has taken over this love. Next time I go to the county seat, I will treat him to a good meal. After closing the factory door, Northeast wild tiger whispered to a subordinate next to him. Okay. The subordinate smiled happily. When a group of them walked out of the gate of this factory building. Not far away from them, on the trees beside the wall, a giant mosquito with compound eyes and cold eyes was staring at these people. Night becomes his best protective color. Manchurian wild tiger? You still have so many subordinates, what's going on? Jia Yan looked at them and couldn't help but think. Coming out of the factory with so many subordinates who don't look like good people doesn't look like a good thing. So what is going on? Is it possible to use it to help your own invasion? To be continued. Thank you all very much. Yesterday, I expressed some concerns about the future of this book, and then, you didn't expect everyone to be so enthusiastic. The number of rewards increased so much in a short time, and the collection, which had not improved much at first, also grew a little faster than usual. Thank you very much. The following are the book friends who rewarded me after yesterday's update. You are my motivation for updating today. Thank you. Thanks to the two brothers Weavier and Easy Fall for their 588 tips. Thank you for No Self in My Heart Oh My Husband 1 season / Another Silence of Ka 5 Emperors of Khan Helpless Dream Man Depressed Fool Like the book written by Tomato The Raging Dragon Menying Lulugos Shiju is waiting for rewards from book friends. There are so many book friends, and some people give rewards more than once a day. This is very touching. Thank you. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 54. Jia Yan is hiding among the trees. The potential enemies faced at this time became humans. Naturally, he didn't dare to try any more breakthroughs or attacks. So while he was waiting for the opportunity, he was still observing all the details in the factory, even if there was a slight chance. The 3 buildings and the office building were completely renovated because they had too many holes before. Aluminum alloy panels were installed piece by piece to block all the holes where insects could invade. As for the 2 buildings used as workshops, because they were originally the core buildings of a military institution decades ago, they were relatively tightly defended, that is, aluminum alloy plates were installed in some missing parts. Jia Yan is observing. Well. Suddenly, Jia Yan saw something. Water pipe. Jia Yan saw a straight pipe outside a building that was used as a workshop, leading directly from the bottom of the building to the inside. This pipe must have been added later because the material is PVC pipe that is only used today. Thanks to his now mutated eyes with enhanced vision, Jia Yan was able to see the pipe. As for whether it is useful, we have to wait until we go to investigate. Jia Yan flew up. There are cameras here. Jia Yan looked in one direction, where a camera was installed high up. Although he was not afraid of being photographed, because it would take at least a few minutes for security to arrive, but he did not want his exploration to be disturbed, so he spread his wings and flew high into the sky. Perhaps the factory was not prepared for the emergence of mutated flying creatures, so it did not monitor high places. Jia Yan came to the pipe, which was already a surveillance blind spot at the corner. Jia Yan fell quietly. The huge mosquito body landed next to the pipe and looked at it carefully. This is a PVC water pipe, yes, but its diameter is about 10 centimeters, which is relatively thick. It should be used as the main pipeline for industrial wastewater, so let me see if there is a place where I can enter. Jia Yan flew up and watched the subtle changes around the ground from a high altitude. A drainage manhole cover with holes appeared in Jia Yan's sight. They should be connected here. Jia Yan's heart moved and he flew directly to the manhole cover. It was pitch black under the manhole cover, and I didn't know if there was any insecticide or anything like that. After all, the Siberian wild tigers wouldn't have missed such a big flaw. Jia Yan hesitated for a moment, as if he didn't smell anything bad in the air, and then he climbed into the gap in the manhole cover. It's just a small problem, but it won't cause any blow to Jia Yan, who has already determined his determination. It will only make him work harder. The huge body can hardly fit into the hole. But Jia Yan still worked hard to get in. As expected, there is a sewer under the manhole cover, but this sewer is relatively large, at least half a person deep, and is filled with some kind of industrial waste liquid. These are chemical waste liquids. I feel it will cause great damage to my body. Please try not to fall into them. Jia Yan felt that this kind of chemical waste was dangerous, so he quickly used his 6 legs to grab the top of the sewer, then spread his wings and hovered in the air to fly. He first turned his upside-down body upright, and then looked at Sakon. Mosquitoes have excellent infrared heat senses and can clearly detect the presence of other life nearby. There are lives, but they are just small things lying on the top and on the walls on both sides. One that has mutated to a huge size cannot be seen. There is no sign of life in the waste liquid. It seems that this waste liquid is really not suitable for life to survive. Flying along the upper part of the empty sewer, underneath is the gurgling industrial waste. After a while, Jia Yan came to the lower part of the PVC pipe. There was an empty space above his head. Jia Yan looked at it, then flapped his wings and flew upward along the pipe space. He needs to hurry up now. God knows if this pipe is where the waste liquid is discharged. If so, how often the waste liquid is discharged. If it happens to be discharged while he is inside, that would be bad luck. Fortunately, Jia Yan's flying speed is not that slow. He can fly to the top of the pipe in a few seconds. If this time happens to catch up with the discharge, it can only be said to be unlucky. In front of the dark pipe, there was a faint mechanical sound. Jia Yan controlled his flying sound and slowly approached the exit of the pipeline. He was a little nervous because he didn't know what situation he was facing. He might fall directly into the side of the staff, which would be a bit funny. The mouth of the pipe was not sealed, so Jia Yan quietly poked his head out a little. There are roaring machines directly outside. Countless lights as bright as daylight illuminate the entire space. This is the front end of a circular conveyor belt, with only an observation port around it. Occasionally, there will be busy staff passing by. So many workers. Jia Yan quietly moved his head close to the observation port. In front of the observation port is a closed machine outlet. It is currently closed. According to the installation, as long as it is opened, a large amount of chemical waste liquid will be discharged. Tell me, are Xiao Li and Lao Chen okay? If they are okay, will the factory really be so kind and arrange for them to be observed in the hospital? The sound of workers chatting could be heard. Who knows, but I think the factory director won't lie to us about this kind of thing. After all, the matter of dead people is such a big deal. Even if he lied to us for a while, as long as we go out, he can be killed immediately. Expose the lie? Unless he still has the guts, killing us all is enough. But that won't work, our family members all know we are here. If he dares to do this, he will be finished. That's true, but we have to be careful. Did you see that the administrative staff in the factory, as well as the factory director himself, don't look like good people? But we still have so many people. If how dare we risk our lives with him, and yet we are afraid of him. A huge mosquito was right behind the two workers, quietly listening to their chat. The two workers had their backs to the pipeline, and the others were also far apart, blocked by the machine and unable to see the observation port. No one could have imagined that a huge mutated bug would fly directly from the pipe to the hinterland of the factory. Because the reason is very simple. It's not that the Siberian wild tigers and others haven't thought about this, but that among all the mutant creatures they know, except for the cockroaches discovered 2 days ago, no one with the ability to fly has been found. As for arthropods such as centipedes and millipedes, there is no way to enter the water pipes through the sewers filled with waste liquid. So much so that no one could have imagined that the Anopheles sinensis mosquito, which the bespectacled man judged would be impossible to survive the second mutation, actually survived and returned to the factory to find another chance. The chat between the two workers continued. The person who had previously raised concerns about Xiao Li and Lao Chen's safety expressed his further vigilance. At this time, he said, "Don't think about risking your life with them. We definitely can't afford it. Think about it, this factory doesn't even know where they are. We don't know what kind of medicine is made in such desolate mountains and wild mountains. It is said to be medicine, poison, or even drugs. Otherwise, how can we hide? Yes, if one day the government comes to arrest people, we working people will be in trouble. Please keep your voice down. Do you think a salary of more than 10,000 yuan a month is a simple matter? Anyway, I will only work for a month or two at most before resigning and going back. I will also do the confidentiality clause and so on. I earn tens of thousands of yuan a month, which is enough for us country people to live on for a year. Jia Yan was no longer distracted by the chat between the two workers, because the useful news had basically been heard. He began to look at the factory environment. This is a small space of more than 200 square meters, and most of it is occupied by some weird machines. 7 or 8 workers were busy in the space, with 2 people walking around and observing the barometer. Several people were at a slot, responsible for pouring certain purple powder into the slot in proportion. The 2 workers in front of him were sitting on the operating table, controlling the starting and closing of all task units. This is the 2nd floor. A thick metal pipe runs directly up from the 1st floor and is connected to a tank-shaped machine in this workshop. This machine looks to be quite old, it is covered with rust, and you can even vaguely see some Japanese fonts on the surface. The huge tank-shaped machine has 2 exits, one of which penetrates the wall and is connected to the next workshop in another building. The other outlet is the waste liquid discharge outlet. Yes, it is the outlet connected to the sewer pipe where Jia Yan is. At this time, the tank-shaped machine was roaring continuously, as if something was stirring inside. It turns out that the inside of the factory looks like this. It's completely different from the high-tech look I imagined. Sure enough, the Siberian wild tigers didn't develop that purple-red antimicrobial peptide by their own abilities. If you want to develop a purple-red medicinal liquid, you have to have very high-end equipment. However, except for some old machines that still look a little bit cool, everything else here looks like a temporary patchwork. Minato's gadgets can even be said to be very low-end. How did the Siberian wild tigers come up with this kind of medicinal solution? Did they really rely on these buildings, the book garden and the materials and equipment left behind by a certain country during the previous war? Jia Yan really doesn't understand the history of the Siberian wild tiger's origins. In his opinion, this character is a bit legendary. Relying on such equipment to produce liquid medicine seems to have achieved a high status. But those have nothing to do with me. I'm not a human being now. Why do I envy him? I just want to know if there is a way to get the medicine here. Jia Yan looked at the outside world coldly with a pair of compound eyes at the observation port. Until the 2 workers sitting on the side pressed a certain button respectively, and then, the roaring tank-shaped machine suddenly stopped shaking. Hua hua hua. When the sound of water flow came out, Jia Yan was immediately stunned. Not good. He quickly turned around and saw that the drain outlet of the machine was open, and a stream of waste liquid containing dangerous chemicals rushed towards him. To be continued. Please collect. I asked the editor today and he said that this book's grades were average. For a moment, I really couldn't type anymore. But as soon as I opened the book, the messages from book friends and the rewards made me immediately full of strength and resurrected with full blood. Thanks to oh my god for the many tips that hit the screen, and thanks to the book friends I laughed and cried and forgot about it. Please call me a big monster and 878kh for the tips. Tomorrow is Sunday. I promised the book friends in the group a few days ago that I would break out in the middle of the night, so, let's break out. 3 updates tomorrow. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 55. The sky and the earth in front of you are splashing with water. Jia Yan was frightened and quickly spread his wings, followed by water spray behind him. He flies. The chemical liquid chased at an extremely fast speed, and Jia Yan fled directly back into the water pipe from where he came from. The water splashed from behind, and a few drops even splashed onto Jia Yan's body, leaving a slight feeling of pain. Jia Yan instantly increased his speed to the limit, and before his body could turn around the corner of the pipe, he slammed into the wall of the pipe. Buzz. The sound of the wings having to rub against the wall of the pipe is so heartbreaking. The body fell in a free body, and the water spray from the chemical waste liquid followed closely. The water spray almost submerged Jia Yan's hind feet. Hurry! Hurry! The dark sewer was right in front of him. Seeing that he was about to reach it, Jia Yan's speed surged. Arrive! Turn quickly! Buzz! The flapping frequency of his wings almost reached Jia Yan's limit. In the space above the sewer, Jia Yan, who was knocked down from the water pipe, suddenly made an emergency stop in the air with his wings. Then the body quickly rushed to the side. The surging chemical waste water flow was right next to him, rolling down. It fell into the sewer and countless water splashed up. Jia Yan flew a little further. It's not a good feeling being chased by chemical waste. Jia Yan felt that his lifespan was shortened by a few months. Fortunately, he escaped. The feeling of these chemical waste liquids is really not very good to him. It doesn't matter if it splashes a little, but if the whole body is soaked in, it might really cause a big problem. Actually, there were two choices at that moment. One choice was to continue returning along the pipe, and the other choice was to fly out from the observation port. However, it was absolutely impossible to hide one's body in that way. You would be directly facing so many workers, and in the workshop there is no other escape route at all, and the danger is even greater, so my split-second choice was right. Jia Yan really hesitated for a few tenths of a millisecond just now. He didn't know if it was that short. Anyway, he really hesitated for a moment, but fortunately he didn't choose to run away to the workshop. If he had done that, he might not have done so now. We are really in the biggest crisis. In this workshop, I have found a way to invade, but there are too many people in the workshop. Now I will go to the outside world and wait for the opportunity. Jia Yan was very convinced that something must have happened in this factory. Otherwise, why were the two workers talking in low voices so weird? So he could wait. As long as he stayed outside the factory, he was sure there would be some chance. And the people in the tent. This group of people will always find this place. Their appearance will also be a variable. Maybe it will be my opportunity. Jia Yan was determined and climbed out along the upper part of the empty sewer towards the drainage hole. The outside world is still dark and late at night. A giant mosquito, its wings vibrating, carefully avoiding the camera, flew into the air. The night will pass and the dawn will come. Compared with the forest in the dark, the forest in the morning has a touch of greenery, which is a reflection of the vitality of life. But a group of people who started traveling early in the morning in the forest did not feel so comfortable. Teacher, our mobile phones don't have signal here. Who do you think we should send out to contact the police and relevant personnel? The boy, who was Tutor Lin's student, grabbed his swollen arm and said. Each of the 5 people packed small bags and had a lot of luggage on them. Teacher Lin looked at the team, consisting of 2 men and 3 women, and then looked past his expectant students to the middle-aged driver who was the guide. Mr. Jin, please go back, but remember to explain it to the police, then hang up the phone and say it's me calling you. Tell the other party the information we told you, and then he will arrange it everything, and your salary will come from him as well. Okay, Teacher Lin. Mr. Jin was still nervous at first. How could he be involved in something that seemed very complicated? It was even related to the World War decades ago. It seemed really dangerous. After Mr. Jin left, Teacher Lin ignored the slightly resentful expression of the male student and led the group to continue heading into the mountains. The day passed quickly and night came again. Then the night passed and the bright day fell again. The golden morning light reflected the earth. Jia Yan bathed in this morning light and quietly hid among a tree. He always takes a few hours to rest every day, and just like before, he still falls asleep and dreams when he rests. Yesterday, he had a dream. He used purple-red liquid to become a supergiant mosquito, no matter how big it was. He didn't have a concept, he just felt that he was flying in a dark place, and the hurricane blown up by flying could cause energy radiation. The radiated energy was like an explosion, splashing away in all directions in the dark space. But from this dream, I woke up when I saw a huge ball. He only remembered that when he saw the huge ball in the dream, he was very excited and flew towards it. Why, that round ball looks a bit like a planet. Okay, this dream is too fantastic, don't pay too much attention to it. Jia Yan kept his eyes on the 3 buildings in front of him. After 2 days of observation here, Jia Yan discovered that there must be something going on in the factory. From time to time, the Siberian wild tiger will bring a few people who look like gangsters to inspect the factory. From time to time, roars came from the factory. What happened in the Kendi factory might be a mutiny by the workers. If chaos breaks out, my chance will come. Jia Yan was slightly excited. If there were huge changes in the factory, he would have a chance of being immersed in the purple-red liquid. Would the degree of mutation be more severe? He is looking forward to it. In the factory, both the Siberian wild tiger and the man with eyes looked a little tired. Boss, something happened again yesterday. There was some kind of explosion in that place. Fortunately, there were no workers inside, but the equipment was broken. I hurriedly asked the mechanic to go over and temporarily repair the valve, so that the workshop could resume normal work. The man with glasses has an unknown look in his eyes under his thick lenses. He asked in a low voice, "Boss, can you tell me now what is that hole?" The Siberian wild tiger also looked at the subordinate in front of him with faint eyes. This student from a third-rate university was once looked down upon by many people, but when I first talked to him at the job fair, I could tell that his knowledge was extraordinary and his behavior was not that of a graduate. He will be his capable subordinate. So the Northeast wild tigers used him, and still reused him. Until now, this person has become his #1 subordinate. He also believed in this subordinate. Northeastern wild tiger sorted out the language. Then he said, "You Sunrin, if you want to know, you can't tell it. If I know that you reveal the slightest bit, I will kill you with my own hands. Do you still want to know now?" The man with glasses smiled, his face a little uneasy. "Boss, you know me, have you ever said anything about this factory?" "Well, if you really don't believe me, then it doesn't matter if you don't say anything." The Siberian wild tiger shook his head. "Okay, let me tell you. This was the territory occupied by the Japanese during the war. Then, they built these 3 buildings in this place. Then they inhumanely experimented on some of our ancestors from China. You and I both know what happened after that. That was the outbreak of the war. This place was once occupied by many domestic and foreign armies. The result of the occupation was that in the end no one understood what kind of facility this was. Even on the Japanese side, many documents and executives were killed and injured, and it was as if these 3 buildings were completely forgotten. But I'm different, there was a complex light in the northeastern wild tiger's eyes. My great-grandfather was a former victim. He left information for us descendants, and he also left several drug formulas. The most important thing is to. He told us juniors that if we have the ability in the future, we must protect this place." "Why protect?" the man with glasses frowned. The Siberian wild tiger's words sounded a bit too fantasy. The Siberian wild tiger looked directly at the man with glasses, and then he shook his head. Maybe he doesn't know about this issue, or maybe he knows a little bit but doesn't want to talk about it. Seeing the other party's expression, the man with glasses was very knowledgeable and did not ask further. But in my heart, it felt like a huge stone was pressing down on me. In short, I felt vaguely scared about that place in the factory. The hot sun in the sky hung high in the sky above. Jia Yan was still lying on the trees near the factory, waiting for an opportunity. And the 4-person exploration team staggered out of the jungle. Not long after, they came to the front of the factory consisting of 3 buildings. To be continued. 3 updates today. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I will start the Kitty and Small recommendation. From now on, it may be the time to decide the life or death of this book. So I implore everyone, collect everything you have. Recommend. Give it all to this book. Thanks. Thanks to the book friend Helpless Dreamer for the 588 tip, and thanks to Ice of the Century Mika Control. I laughed so much that I forgot about it. Please call me a big monster. 7 bitch descendants. I don't know what year it is. Click on Xianyuan Ranzu, Flowwind, whose chrysanthemums withered, Passion, Dancing Alone and other book friends rewards. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 56. Teacher Lin, there are 3 buildings ahead. Among the 4, the male student had the best eyesight, and he could see the 3 buildings of the factory in the distance. After the other people used telescopes to see all 3 buildings in the factory, the 4 of them fell silent for a moment. You 3, it's better to find a way back. I'll go over and investigate alone, Instructor Lin said. Everything before was just his analysis, and the real situation may be different from what he analyzed. But when they saw these 3 buildings, the 4 of them knew that all of Instructor Lin's guesses were probably correct. So what kind of danger will the characters in the 3 buildings bring to them is something that everyone has to consider. Teacher Lin, I chose to stay. As a figure in the media industry, how can I get good news if I don't even have a sense of adventure? Teacher Chen from the School of Communication smiled and expressed his determination. Teacher, I'll stay too. Boys always have an adventurous spirit, especially the scene that looked like an adventure scene in a movie. The student from the School of Life was so excited that he even had a string of quilts on his arm. I didn't even consider the big bumps from mosquito bites, so I decided to stay. Seeing the 3 people looking at him, Yetongyu hesitated for a while. God's mercy, she just wanted to use this opportunity to avoid her classmates in the college, the girl Tingting who bullied her. As for giant creatures, what are they? How could a girl be interested in something like this? Who would have thought that this would be such a divine unfolding, that it would turn out to be a battle of wits and strength with a mysterious force, which would make this girl who fished in troubled waters have her eyes bulging out of her head. But going back alone? Tingting said that she had never experienced wildlife. I followed the team here in a daze all the way. If I went back alone, I might starve to death on the way. I'm going with everyone, too. The girl made her decision bitterly. Okay, let's take a closer look first. Instructor Lin spoke. 3 excited teachers and students, plus a reluctant girl, approached the factory. At the moment when these 4 people were approaching, a very hidden camera installed on the top of a tree in the forest discovered their traces. Boss, there is a situation outside. 4 unidentified men and women are approaching our factory. The voice from the monitoring room came from the Northeast Wild Tiger's intercom. The Siberian wild tiger is in his office. The events of the past few days have made him a little anxious. His goal is to urgently rush for half a month's supply, and then donate a batch of the purple potion produced to some big shots in exchange for their support. Not only can he suppress the death of people in the factory, it is possible to turn this factory, which is still in a gray area for the time being, from darkness to light, and obtain the status of a real national institution. He, the Northeast Wild Tiger, continues to actually control this place, but no one dares to challenge him anymore. How much effort have the Siberian wild tigers put in to achieve today's situation? He takes both black and white, and even uses methods to bribe the addict, who is probably the strongest killer in the country. And spread the word, using the reputation of drug addicts to create a huge deterrent. But at the critical moment, Not only did the workers cause trouble, but there were also more and more mutated bugs. It was already very troublesome, but now it's good that I heard my subordinates report again that someone was approaching my factory. The Siberian wild tiger knew that this would not be a mountain ranger from some nearby unit or agency, because he had been trained and managed. It is impossible for his subordinates to report to him just because these people came. Where are they now? I'll take them down right now. Siberian wild tiger stood up from the office chair. Then, he walked out of the office. Not only the Siberian wild tigers, but also Jia Yan, who is hiding in the jungle trees and waiting for an opportunity, knows that humans are approaching from a distance. Mosquitoes can see the breath of carbon dioxide in the distance. The weaker and tired the person is, the more rapidly the carbon dioxide is exhaled, and the mosquito can naturally perceive it more clearly. Therefore, some people think that their physical constitution attracts mosquitoes, or that their blood type attracts mosquitoes. In fact, this is not necessarily true, because there is no medical evidence that blood type attracts mosquitoes. Therefore, it may be that these people's usual breathing habits are too rapid, and mosquitoes are attracted by carbon dioxide. Naturally, I stared at them and bit them. Jia Yan sensed the 4 humans dozens of meters away, and then quietly made his body more hidden. He knew that the investigation team he had been waiting for 2 days had finally arrived. Now it was up to him to see if they would cause any chaos in the factory, and then give him the opportunity to sneak into the factory and get the purple-red liquid again. Teacher Lin, there are cameras there. The sharp-eyed male student really had a good eye, and he directly saw a camera hidden in the leaves while walking. The 4 of them were all shocked, but Teacher Lin was the quickest to calm down. He looked at the 3 buildings standing in front of him and said in a deep voice, "It seems that we will see the owner of this place soon." The group stopped moving forward and stood still. What is this? Yatangyu stood among the 4 people. Others looked generous and sacrificed, but she was the only one who wanted to cry but had no tears. Sure enough, not long after, the door of the building not far away slowly opened. None of them saw any road outside the gate. The gate had obviously not been opened for an unknown period of time, and the rusty joints made a harsh friction sound. A tall young man, leading 7 or 8 sturdy men with ferocious looks, walked out of the gate. Jia Yan, who was hiding among the leaves, watched this scene silently, and then said something in his heart. It's about to begin, let's see how far these 4 people can go. As soon as the Siberian wild tiger walked out of the gate, he saw 4 men and women standing in the forest, waiting in full formation. But there are 7 or 8 big men on his side, and he will not be afraid of the gentle and elegant team of the male and female team in front of him. He let go and walked towards the 4 of them. The men behind him came forward one by one. Don't be afraid, they don't dare to do anything to us. Instructor Lin comforted the 3 people around him. He was looking at the 7 or 8 people opposite him. The tall young man in front of him must be the so-called leader, but he didn't know if he was the person in charge of this building. If so, then just talk to the person in charge directly and explore their purpose and motivation in a subtle way. The 4 of them stood there, while the Siberian wild tiger and his men came to stand not far away. Who are you for? This is a national scientific research center, leave now. A subordinate of the Siberian wild tiger acted as the first person to talk when they met. Research institutions. Instructor Lin raised his eyebrows and then felt reassured. This person must have lied to him, because he has the right to know about the scientific research institution. Since he doesn't know, this is definitely not a scientific research institution. However, since the other party claims to be a scientific research institution, we can guess to a certain extent that it is definitely related to the strange event of the giant creature. Sorry, we are passers-by. We have been in the mountains for a few days and got lost. Can you let us go in and have a rest? You can also give us some diarrhea medicine. Yesterday, this kid started to have diarrhea, and now he is almost exhausted. Instructor Lin pointing at his male student. The boy was smart enough and immediately pretended to feel uncomfortable. The Siberian wild tiger looked at these four gentle people. They really looked like they were travel-worn. It was possible that they had been wandering around in the wild for a few days. We don't have any medicine here. If you walk towards the mountain opposite, you will be able to get out of the mountains in about 10 kilometers. Let's go. He pointed to the mountains in the distance and stared at Instructor Lin's eyes. Oh, that's right, thank you very much. At this moment, Teacher Lin discovered that the eyes of the northeastern wild tiger revealed a kind of fierceness. He knew that his judgment was wrong and it was definitely dangerous here. Looking at this person, he dares to kill. Let's go. Instructor Lin took the lead and walked toward the back. He decided to stop this adventure and temptation. Although the other three people were a little confused, they still turned around and walked towards the way they came. They are not just friends, catch them all. The voice of the Siberian wild tiger resounds in the woods. Run! Teacher Lin shouted loudly, and then ran away thinking about the future. The four of them were startled when they heard the sound of the Siberian wild tiger. At this time, they all spread their legs and ran for their lives into the distance. But the men around the Siberian wild tiger were all thick-waisted and round, and they ran much faster than the four members of the investigation team. This strength is not comparable. Jia Yan was on the tree and was startled when he saw the scene below. The four of them were caught easily. If the matter didn't get serious, he wouldn't have had a chance. I have to go down and help these four people. Anyway, the people on the northeast wild tiger side are already familiar with giant creatures. The four teachers and students originally came to investigate the giant creature. So it was not such a shocking thing that he suddenly appeared in front of them. Those subordinates probably wouldn't be targeting themselves completely. After all, it was just a mutated animal that suddenly appeared and they were used to it. If I don't fight, how can I have the chance to come into contact with the purple liquid again? So, I have to fight. After thinking about this, Jia Yan encouraged himself. Then quietly from the trees, it flapped its wings and flew down. A Siberian wild tiger subordinate was rushing towards the middle-aged woman named Teacher Chen. This woman was already middle-aged, and her legs and feet were not very agile. She was chased behind her by her men in just a few steps. You can't run away, the subordinate stretched out his hand and grabbed Teacher Chen's shoulder. At this critical moment, a huge mosquito the size of an adult's fist, with wings covering an area of more than 10 centimeters, suddenly passed in front of his eyes. What? The hand was startled. It originally grabbed Teacher Chen's palm, but let go. What a huge mosquito! When he saw what frightened him, his expression changed wildly. To be continued. The second update is here. There will be another update at around 12 o'clock. I beg you to collect it. Next week is a life or death week for this book. If you have an account, please collect it. If you don't have an account, register it. Remember to come to Cheateon.com. Thanks to Menying Luoluo, Tree of Seven Heavens, Depressed Fool and Book Friends 1508142029014997 Book Friends for their rewards, Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 57. The third update has been completed. I sincerely ask for your favorites, recommendations, and clicks on Monday. Next week will be about the life and death of this book. I hope everyone will support it. Thank you. Jia Yan suddenly jumped out, frightening the tall subordinate. But Teacher Chen, who was running in front, was not affected at all and ran towards the grass. The subordinate quickly realized that this was probably a mutated mosquito that had eaten the factory's traditional Chinese medicine. There have been more and more of these things lately, and he caught them more than once. How could you be frightened by such a gadget? It's so unmanly. His face felt hot for a while. He looked around and found that no one was paying attention to his side, so he chased after the middle-aged woman who ran more than 20 meters away. Yetangyu was also running desperately. She felt like the world was playing a joke on her. 10,000 grass mud horses are galloping in front of you, is it okay? In order to avoid the female classmate in school who was blackmailing her, she took the initiative to join this outing practice. Who would have thought that such an unexpected incident would happen? It might even be life-threatening. It would be better to face Ting in school. Behind him was a wretched-looking young man. As a subordinate of the Siberian wild tiger, he was the most lustful for women. As soon as the Siberian wild tiger issued the order to pursue, he identified this one among the four. The beautiful girl, seeing no one around her to catch up with her, smiled as if a flower had grown on her face. Even if you catch it later, even if you can't do anything, it will be very enjoyable to use your hands, right? Watch where you're going. His hand pulled Yetangyu's travel backpack on her back and pulled her to a stop. No, Yetangyu screamed. The girl struggled with great strength. The man tried to grab her flailing arms with both hands, but failed to catch her several times. A dark mosquito, bathed in the sun, flew very low, quietly close to the ground, and approached this subordinate. Unlike when it's dark, if you dare to fly too high during the day, you will definitely be discovered. Instead, you must stay close to the ground and approach quietly from behind to reduce the risk of being discovered as much as possible. Due to the hot weather, this subordinate had been hiding in the office and blowing on the electric fan, so he was only wearing a pair of big pants at this time. Her dark legs were exposed. The black mosquito flew and came to the calf of this subordinate. His compound eyes flashed coldly. While this subordinate was not paying attention, his abdomen was quietly prepared. Then, at that moment, the man almost completely controlled the girl. The mosquito's belly suddenly bulged. The tail needle on the tail thrust forward fiercely. Ah! The man's screams echoed hundreds of meters nearby, and even the strong men who were chasing the others turned their attention one by one. Blood gurgled out, and the 1-centimeter-long tail needle completely penetrated the skin. It was a huge trauma. The subordinate immediately squatted on the ground in pain. At this moment, Yetangyu saw a huge mosquito with the size of more than 7 centimeters flying out from the lower leg of his subordinate. Its wings vibrated and its wingspan reached more than 10 centimeters. It made an exaggerated and huge roar like a small remote control aircraft, and flew into the sky. Isn't this the big mosquito I saw 2 days ago? Or is it another one? But anyway, I should thank him. Yetangyu remembered this huge Anopheles sinensis mosquito. After knowing that there would be giant creatures in this deep mountain, she was not surprised that there was such a huge mosquito, not to mention that she had seen it once before. In fact, she had seen him twice before, but she didn't know it. It's great. I didn't expect that human skin is not very hard, and the tail needle went in with just one prick. It's just that the muscles inside were too strong, and they stiffened instantly in a conditioned reaction, making it almost impossible to pull out the tail needle. Jia Yan flew in the sky and jumped into the leaves of a tree. He had been doubting whether his current methods could cause harm to humans. Now the facts are before our eyes. He, a mosquito, can actually cause physical harm to humans. Of course, he is not an ordinary mosquito, but a giant mosquito that has undergone 2 mutations, reaching a height of 7 or 8 centimeters, with 6 legs spread out, reaching a height of 20 centimeters. Take advantage of the opportunity and leave quickly. Just when the subordinate was holding his calf and screaming, Yetangyu, whose wrist was grabbed by him, suddenly struggled away, and she was able to break free. In a hurry, she threw away her backpack and trotted lightly. In 2.5 strokes, she was able to escape no trace in the bushes. Compared with the middle-aged teacher Chen, this girl is a serious youthful person. She was already very explosive when she was frightened. Now that she has thrown away her baggage, she can run 3 minutes faster. Hurry up and chase, this young guy here is awesome. This woman here is also very fast, Don't let them go. In an instant, the chasing crowd dispersed and spread to a distance of 100 meters away. But here in the northeast wild tigers, the pursuers were soon no longer visible, being blocked by dense shrubs. They are all a bunch of rubbish. They can't even catch a few people. The Siberian wild tiger became a little anxious. He was speculating on the identity of this group of people. He is not worried about whether he can catch the other party. Even if he loses the pursuit now, they obviously know a lot more about this jungle. I can't catch them now, but I can always catch them all by following the tracks at night. The only thing he worries about is who are these people and what is their purpose of coming here? Judging from the previous appearance, maybe these people really know something about the foundation of their factory. Then you must not let it go. Jia Yan was flying quickly in the air. He shuttles through the jungle much faster than humans. He only needs to twist his body slightly to get around the obstacles that humans want to avoid. Jia Yan became a firefighter. As the oldest of the four, Instructor Lin's physical fitness has already reached its limit. He was breathing heavily, holding a long pointed branch in his hand. This branch was just picked up casually from the ground and was not a weapon at all. There were two people surrounding him. Jia Yan looked at the state of Instructor Lin and knew that even if he intervened, there would be nothing he could do. I had no choice but to escape the sound and rush towards the battle group in the other direction. When he arrived at the end of the field, Jia Yan was stunned when he saw it. It's true to say it's a battle group. Below are three men fighting together. The male student of Instructor Lin, who looked so thin and weak, actually fought with two opponents without falling too far behind. This guy is so fierce. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed faintly, and then he descended from the leaves. As a student of the School of Life, Jiang Shiming can be regarded as a standard student who studies hard, but he has a hobby that other classmates do not have, and that is fitness. No matter how intense his studies are, he will definitely do fitness exercises for more than half an hour every day. Push ups, dumbbell lifts, squats. Anyway, it's easy to play. He is also an amateur, but he didn't expect that his persistence would come in handy at this time. 1 versus 2. I didn't even know that I was such a powerful person. Jiang Shiming had just excitedly discovered one of his strengths, but unexpectedly, the strong man whose arm he had twisted suddenly pulled out a fist. Give this dreaming college student a hard punch on the nose. Bang! That's like a peach blossom blooming. Ah! Puffs of blood came out of Jiang Shiming's nostrils, making him dizzy. As soon as his hand was released, the strong man who was tightly held by his arm turned over and got up from the ground. When the thighs were loosened again, the guy caught between the thighs rolled up from the ground in a state of embarrassment. The two of them were very angry. They were chasing a stupid boy who was stupid in studying, but they were almost killed by him in a 2-on-1 fight. If they didn't teach each other a lesson, they really couldn't swallow their anger. Jiang Shiming was still in a dazed state. It was the first time he had a serious fight with someone since he was a child, and it was also the first time his nose was injured, which made the kid a little confused. One of the thugs rolled up his sleeves, raised his casserole-sized fist, and was about to punch the stupid boy. Jiang Shiming is still fainting. By the way, this kid must have been unconscious for too long. A great situation is about to be overturned. Buzz. At this time, not far away from the forest, an Anopheles sinensis mosquito the size of a human fist suddenly jumped out from behind. His target was this henchman who was about to punch the student from the School of Life. This person's back was turned to Jia Yan, while the other person was standing more than 1 meter away. Even if he saw himself, there was no time to help. Buzz. Jia Yan's flying speed suddenly increased to the limit. He is not saving others, but helping himself. As long as these people continue to make trouble, no matter what happens, there will always be a flaw. Even if the northeastern wild tigers just call the workshop workers who work in 3 shifts 24 hours a day downstairs for a meeting, He can follow the pipes and look for purple liquid in the workshop. Saving people, just by the way. What? Jia Yan guessed right. His body was too big, and the sound of flapping his wings at full speed was too noisy. As soon as he sprang out of the trees, the thug standing on the side immediately saw his figure. There was an expression of surprise in this man's eyes, and he was raising his finger, as if he wanted to point at Jia Yan and shout something. Jia Yan only felt that time had slowed down. In his eyes, there was only a figure directly in front of him, enlarging and getting closer. Getting closer, getting closer. His lower abdomen is also slowly squirming, slowly accumulating strength. Finally, the distance between the two was only the last 10 centimeters. In a moment, Jia Yan's abdomen, which had been gathering strength for a long time, suddenly thrust out. Aim at the strong man who is about to attack with his fist. Poof. The tail needle pricks down. To be continued. The third update is completed. It will be Monday in a few minutes. Please collect, recommend, and click on Monday. Next week is really a matter of life and death. Please help this book. If you are a book friend who has the ability to help promote it, you can also help promote it. Thank you. Thanks to the book friends of The Fall of Comfort, The Demon Lord is Wuodeo, The 5 Emperors of Khan, and have you registered yet for their rewards? Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 58. The sound of clothes and fabrics being torn was very clear. Poof. Then, there are the weird syllables of the tail needle piercing the thug's back muscles. Compared to the clothes being punctured, the sound this time was not loud. It's almost the same moment. Huh, the thug felt the sharp pain of tearing his back. While exclaiming, he stopped dropping his fist. The 1 centimeter tail needle pierced the man's muscles again. Jia Yan only regretted that he was not strong enough and his tail needle was not long enough. Otherwise, it may cause human beings to lose their combat effectiveness instantly. Jia Yan's movements were so nimble and he suspected that he really liked the feeling of fighting yin people. After the mosquito's tail needle pierced the thug's body, it immediately twitched its abdomen. He's about to pull out his tail pin, spread out and escape. Huh? I can't pull it out. Jia Yan's expression changed. Human muscles are very powerful. When they feel attacked, they will contract and stiffen in an instant. But Jia Yan's current strength is not enough. The tail needle is clamped by the force of contraction and cannot be pulled out. What is this? The reproductive organ is inserted into a man's body and cannot be pulled out. Jia Yan was about to cry but had no tears. He was able to attack that wretched subordinate before only because his muscles were not strong, but the tall and strong man in front of him had much stronger muscles. What to do? Jia Yan was a little confused at this moment. He is so powerful now that he can even hit a bat. But compared to humans, it is still a weak animal. Now that the tail needle is clamped by the muscles, he is like a lamb to be slaughtered, absolutely dead. Jia Yan found that he was a little too impulsive. After all, my abdominal strength is not as strong as that of a real tail needle animal. If you pierce it and pull it out, you need to consider this early. When attacking targets like humans, you have to look for places where they don't have much muscle. Now that it is too late to think about the fighting method, another thug has already taken action to kill this mutant mosquito that appears strangely and attacks his companions. He slapped the immobile Jia Yan to the ground. Jia Yan's body couldn't block this blow, he must be seriously injured and on the verge of death. Pull it out. Jia Yan roared in his heart. The tail needle that penetrated into the muscles of the muscle thug finally seemed to be a little loose. He was overjoyed. So now it's time to fight to see if the subordinate moves faster or if he moves faster. And just when he was extremely focused and wanted to compete with the subordinate whose palm fell down to see who was faster. I'll fight you. The male college student who was punched in the nose and had a nosebleed suddenly came out of his daze. The seemingly thin body burst out with incredible power, roaring and charging towards the two strong men. This man went crazy and unleashed all his usual physical fitness. He hugged two people, and they were both hit by him. It was so knocked that I couldn't stand. Otherwise, what is the most terrifying thing about people who are usually quiet and secretive? Bastard! How dare you fight back? The men who were swiping at Jia Yan suddenly changed their target and went to attack the young college student again. At the same time, Jia Yan only felt that the muscles clamping him suddenly relaxed. He quickly pulled out the loose tail needle. I was really saved by that college student, but I also saved him once, so it was offset. Jia Yan flew up in a circle. The three of them suddenly rolled into a ball again. Jiang Shiming only felt that something exploded in his body. With his anger level full, he had infinite power. One hand grabs the head of one of his subordinates, and his mouth is free to bite someone's shoulder. He was disorganized and completely crazy. "Ah! How dare you bite me?" the man who was bitten by him suddenly exclaimed. Then the ferocious look in this man's eyes flashed out. The college boy didn't notice that all his strength and attention was focused on fighting his two men. But Jia Yan, who was hovering in the sky near them, noticed it. The bitten man had a free hand and reached towards the waistband of his back. This hand lifts the clothes. A dark object with metallic luster suddenly came into Jia Yan's compound eyes. Pistol. Jia Yan was shocked. Seeing that they couldn't control this boy, they actually wanted to use a gun. Look at that stupid college boy who only knows how to pounce and bite. At this time, he didn't even notice the other person's little movements. No. We must not let them succeed. Seeing the fighting ability of this college student, Jia Yan felt that if anyone in this group could cause chaos in the factory, it would be this person. This boy must not be caught here, or even shot to death. He also has to shoulder the heavy responsibility of breaking up the factory. Jia Yan felt furious in his heart, and the dark figure that had been hovering for a long time fell again. Damn, this mosquito is here again. This time was different from before. One of the thugs was looking at Jia Yan's figure. When I saw him flying down, a fierce light flashed immediately. With one hand free, go and swat the mosquito. But the college student has gone crazy. Seeing this stretched out hand, Jiang Shiming was suppressing the two thugs with both hands. At this time, his eyes were red, his neck was thick, his eyes were red, and he opened his mouth. There was a click, biting on the outstretched claw of this subordinate, oh no, on the finger. Ah, this subordinate screamed. He really wanted to say, my palm is not stretched out to hit you, but to fight mosquitoes. If he really said it, maybe the college boys who are extremely tired of mosquitoes would really relent. Of course, this is just a joke. If the battle is like this, who will relax? What a divine assist. Comrade, I'm optimistic about you. Jia Yan was still hesitant at first whether to continue rushing down, but when he saw that the man's fingers were bitten, and the two men could hurt his limbs, and they were temporarily controlled by the college boys, he never stopped. He hesitated and rushed down. The only strong man among the three who still had a free hand put his arm on the waistband of his back. His palm had already grasped the handle of the gun, and he was slowly pulling the pistol out of the waistband. At this moment, Jia Yan has already flown down. He crossed over the three-man battle group and flew directly behind the man, buzzing and buzzing as he descended. All three of them saw this weird and huge mosquito, and the college boy was also shocked. Fortunately, his strength had not weakened, otherwise he would have been overturned again. Jia Yan came behind the strong man with the pistol and flew directly at the arm. The pistol has been completely drawn. A standard small workshop privately manufactures a counterfeit firearm with a caliber of 9 mm. Because the production process is acceptable, the appearance is quite intimidating. Let me go. Jia Yan flew down, took advantage of the opportunity for the strong man to draw his pistol, and pounced on the back of the man's hand. This is also a choice without a choice. Compared with the densely muscled arms and wrists, the back of the hand has relatively few muscles, and it is closest to the palm. If you attack, it is most likely to cause the enemy to release his palm. This time, Jia Yan did not choose to use the tail needle. But the stylet in the mouthparts is ready. Compared with the immature but more powerful tail needle, the mouth needle can be sharper and there is no risk of being unable to pull it out. As soon as he pounced on the back of the strong man's hand, Jia Yan spit out the needle in his mouth and pierced the back of his hand. Ah! The strong man felt as if he had been electrocuted. The direct physical damage caused by Jia Yan's current needle was not great for humans, and it was very similar to the feeling of a needle being pierced. But this feeling is even more frightening. This strong man never expected that mosquitoes would fly down and bite him on the back of his hand. Frightened, he loosened his grip and actually dropped the pistol to the ground. Gun, the young college student, because his eyes were on the mosquito before, naturally saw the pistol falling to the ground. A cold sweat broke out from his back. These people actually have guns. No, I must not let them get the gun, or I will die. The sense of crisis is overwhelming, and the adrenaline is completely stimulated. Jiang Shiming felt that the explosive power in his body had increased again. At this time, he seemed to have unlimited potential, spitting out the finger he was biting. Then he pulled with both hands, and this time his super potential exploded. He actually pushed two strong men aside with one hand. No, the two strong men looked at the young college student and stretched their palms towards the pistol that fell to the ground. They were both frightened and terrified. It was too late to stop him. After the boy climbed over for life, he rolled directly in the gravel. While grabbing the small pistol on the ground, he also distanced himself from the two strong men. A blast of cold air rose from the backs of the two men. Don't move. Otherwise, or I'll shoot. The boy's arm holding the gun was trembling a little, but he still resolutely pointed the muzzle of the black gun at the two strong men. Beautiful. What do you call a comrade who can seize opportunities as long as he creates them? Are there any teammates who are like gods? Jia Yan staggered out from behind the subordinate. When he broke away from the strong man's arm just now, he was thrown to the ground by the force of the struggle, hit a small stone, and suffered some injuries to one of his long legs. But he single-handedly turned the three men's battle group around, and the excitement made him forget the pain. Happy. To be continued. The collection is not ideal, alas, forget it, just work hard on writing. The fate of the future depends on the editor's arrangements. Thanks to the book friend Celestial Snail for the 588 tip, thanks to Xianyuan Ranzu, Mo Chen Wuming, Depressed Fool, Menying Luoluo, Lu Yifei's Man and other book friends for their rewards. Now you are my motivation to update. Thank you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 59. Jiang Shiming looked at the giant mosquito slowly rising into the sky and had some strange thoughts. Is this mosquito really here to help me? Impossible. But this was not the time for questions like this. He was breathing heavily, pointing his gun at the two strong men, and slowly retreating. Wait until the body reaches a slope. Jiang Shiming rushed directly into the bushes. Bastard! How did you lose your pistol? Did you want to commit suicide or kill me? You are stupid, aren't you? It's all that mosquito, huh? Where's the mosquito? Why did he run away? The strong man who dropped the gun felt aggrieved and wanted to turn around to find the mutated mosquito that caused him to drop the gun, but he didn't look at it. To any shadow. By the way, did you turn on the safety of your pistol just now? Another subordinate remembered the previous details and couldn't help but ask. Before I could open it, he snatched it away. The strong man who had his gun taken away was stunned and said. Then, he suddenly realized it. That kid doesn't know how to shoot. He didn't even turn on the safety. Bastard, let's chase. Another subordinate also pulled out the pistol from behind. The two of them followed the escape route of the college boy and chased him all the way. The one who was one step ahead of them was Jia Yan. As early as the first moment, he was already chasing behind the boy named Zhang Shiming from Life College. A person who has fighting ability and even captured a pistol can definitely bring down the factory. He must follow this kind of person closely. Then take advantage of the opponent's action and act together, and there will definitely be a chance to produce purple-red liquid. Jia Yan looked at the boy who was panting and running not far away. In his compound eyes, there was a firm belief that he was bound to win the purple-red liquid. Zhang Shiming ran with all his strength, his hand holding the pistol trembling slightly. Things really got big. These people actually have guns. This is really a big force and a big conspiracy. It's exactly like the adventure in the movie plot. He was nervous and excited. After running for who knows how long, the young junior student rested for a while under a green ancient tree. A huge dark mosquito also followed the young man and flew to a tree not far away from him and landed quietly. If the distance is far enough, Jia Yan's current flapping sound will still not be detected by human hearing. What should we do now? Zhang Shiming was panting, but his dry throat made the breath he breathed out dry and hot. He is tired, he is thirsty. But you can't just lie down and rest. The mentor and two teammates are still escaping, and may even have been captured. If he didn't have the help of the mosquito, he would probably be in trouble right now. I've been bitten by mosquitoes all day long, and this time a big guy came to save my life. Is this a way of repaying a favor? Zhang Shiming rolled his eyes and saw a mosquito biting him on his arm again. He raised his hand but did not hit it. This guy is repaying the big guy in this way. No, just sit there for a few more minutes and then go back to save everyone. I have a gun in my hand now, and they will definitely use it as a weapon. No matter what happens, I can drag two of them with me, right? After resting for a while, Zhang Shiming stood up with some exhaustion. It's right to think about it. This guy fought with two northeastern big men for more than 10 minutes. Although he usually exercised, the main reason why he was able to draw was because he burst out with fierce energy. Otherwise, even if he was one-on-one, he would not be able to draw. You don't necessarily win. Now that the explosive power has passed, the body will naturally fall into a state of exhaustion. Does this kid still want to go? Jia Yan watched Zhang Shiming's actions from above his head. In his heart, he liked this kind of person who valued love and justice. But if you don't know how to adapt, you will be a pedantic fool. You are obviously so tired, you will die if you take more rest, and this is definitely the time when the opponent's defense is the tightest. Jia Yan's physical condition is not particularly good either. One of his midfoots was sprained while fighting a bat, and it is still not very flexible. His other hind foot was thrown to the ground by a strong man just now, and now it is in pain. But now that he has come this far, he doesn't want to give up. Zhang Shiming found the direction and walked towards the factory again. Jia Yan was in the bushes ahead, searching for him everywhere, so that this kid was so stupid that he didn't know that he had been ambushed. Suddenly, Jia Yan saw a figure in a bush. His compound eyes narrowed. If it is a Manchurian wild tiger, he will sneak over and bite the person without making a sound. In this way, the boy from the School of Life should be wary. As a hidden teammate, Jia Yan said that he did his best to do this. This figure is relatively petite and wears women's outdoor clothing. Looking closer, she was squatting in the bushes, shivering a little. The girl heard the sound of Zhang Shiming walking through the bushes, and she immediately shrank into a ball even more timidly. Isn't this the female college student from the exploration team? Jia Yan lay on the tree and took a closer look at her face. I couldn't help but feel surprised. This was not only a female college student from the exploration team, but also the girl who was blackmailed when I sucked blood for the first time in a taxi. It seems to be called Yetangyu, right? You can still encounter it after thousands of kilometers. Is this ape dung? Jia Yan lamented that he was no longer human, otherwise the spark of love might really burst out. Thousands of kilometers away, including the time I saved her just now, this girl has been helped twice by me. Even if you commit yourself to it, it's not too much, okay? Well, I can't do it with you anymore, so let's match you two single men and women together. Jia Yan thought wickedly, and then flew out of the leaves. Flapping its wings, its long legs suddenly swept across the side of the girl's face. Ah! Yetangyu, who was already very nervous, was suddenly swept across the face by a huge flying creature, and suddenly screamed in fright. Who? Jiang Shiming's nervousness over there was also frightened, and the pistol in his hand was aimed here. Huh! The next moment, surprised sounds came from the mouths of two young people, a man and a woman. The girl stood up from the bush and found that the person in front of her was not an enemy, but Jiang Shiming, a male student from the School of Life who was traveling with her. She felt weak at her feet and was almost soft to the ground. Hey, what's wrong with you? Jiang Shiming had quick eyes and quick hands. He stepped forward quickly and hugged Yetangyu, who was lying weak. Ouch, I'm hugging you now. You kid can do it. Jia Yan hid in the trees and smiled proudly. Classmate, I can only help you so much. If you give birth to a child in the future, please remember to recognize me as your godfather. Ahem, please call me Lei Feng. Jiang Shiming stopped in his tracks because he ran into the girl Yetangyu on the road. The two of them had been in contact before, but now Jiang Shiming was a little bit embarrassed to let her, a girl with no relevant knowledge, escape alone in the forest. Do you understand? As long as you walk looking at that mountain, no matter what you encounter in the middle, don't give up your goal. You will be able to walk out of the forest around tomorrow morning. Night was finally coming, and the two of them hid in a deep pit and hid for a day. After eating 2 pieces of chocolate from the girl's pants pocket, Jiang Shiming stood up. He has given the girl how to get out of the forest and related knowledge. As for whether she can get out of the forest on her own, she will need a little perseverance and luck. Okay, I'm going to save the 2 teachers now. You should be careful in this forest. Jiang Shiming looked at Yetangyu, who was looking at him with tears in his lips, and felt a strange emotion in his heart. The more difficult and dangerous the environment, the stronger the human reproductive instinct, so it is not surprising that love is born under such circumstances. But Jiang Shiming gritted his teeth, turned around and walked towards the factory. But not long after, the rustling sound of trotting was heard from behind. He turned around and saw the girl following him not far away. 2 people are better than 1, I'll go with you too. The two just stared at each other. There is an inexplicable feeling that arises. A lone hero was about to die generously. The beautiful girl who had been sharing the same adversity had a chance to escape, but she still followed him and resolutely accompanied him. It's almost possible to make a movie that is shocking and makes ghosts and gods cry, isn't it? It didn't take much, and the two of them didn't know what they said. Then we turned around together and walked towards the eerie place of the factory. The 2 people's backs are bathed in the sunset, as if forming a beautiful picture. Wow! Jia Yan was almost stunned from behind. Is it possible that these 2 guys are really having fun? Heroes and beauties go through adversity together, what a beautiful scene. His compound eyes were filled with the flames of gossip. However, if he heard what Yetangyu said to Jiang Shiming before, most of that poetic feeling would dissipate. Just now Yetangyu caught up with Jiang Shiming. Jiang Shiming turned around. Find the book garden. You really want to go with me? The girl almost cried. Because I have forgotten the way you told me to go back. Sang Xian, a cheap girl with a bad memory deserves to die with others. Well, Jia Yan didn't hear it, so keep his fond memories of the touching scene between the two. Night finally fell. The pitch black color is like a terrifying black hole that wants to swallow everything, sending darkness and terror to everyone. It was a moonless night. In the forest, you can barely reach your fingertips. The two young men, who had been struggling for a long time, finally arrived outside 3 buildings with lights on. The real battle is about to begin. It's night now, and you also have pistols. In this case, let's see how much trouble you can make. Jia Yan looked at the factory in front of him, full of expectations for the two people below. Xiao, I'll first find a place where cameras can't be caught and go in to investigate whether the teachers have been caught. If so, then rescue them. You can just wait outside. After Jiang Ximing finished speaking to Ye Tongyu, he stood up directly, crouched and moved among the trees. To be continued. Thank you to book friends such as Smiling Face Like a Pancake, Mika Control, Keaton Weeawu, If You Are Well, How Can You Get It, Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 60. Just when the college boys were lurking close to the factory, Jia Yan also quietly approached the wall area again. Jiang Ximing should walk the next road on his own, and Jia Yan can't help him with every move. As a mosquito, he did enough. Darkness of night is the easiest time to invade. Jia Yan flew into the factory along the blind spot of the camera he was looking for last time. He keenly felt that the factory's defensive power was obviously tighter than before. It can be said that there is a sentry every 3 steps and a post after 5 steps. In the distance, Jia Yan saw the college boy also climbing into the factory from outside the wall. He quickly knocked over a factory security guard who was patrolling with a flashlight in a remote place. Very well, I'm just waiting for you to cause trouble. Jia Yan was very satisfied with his previous decision to help this boy. It seemed that this guy would not let him down if he made trouble. Anyway, this classmate still has a pistol with him, so he shouldn't be caught before he makes a big fuss. So what you have to do is to be prepared for chaos in the factory. After thinking about this, he spread his wings and flew towards the place where the PVC water pipe was. The factory night is still filled with the sound of roaring machinery. These sounds provide good protection for intruders. For the time being, it seems that the college boy has no risk of being caught. Jia Yan took one last look at the outside world and made sure that the guards had not noticed Jiang Ximing's intrusion before he confidently drilled into the drainage manhole cover full of holes. Below is the sewer that is half a person's height. It was still filled with gurgling chemical waste. This waste liquid looks like a disgusting milky white liquid. Even if it is harmless, no one will be willing to get close to it. Jia Yan naturally flew high and tried to avoid contact with them while flying forward. There seemed to be 1 or 2 gunshots outside. It seemed that the commotion outside started earlier than I thought. There was a faint glint in Jia Yanfu's eyes. He speeds up his flight. And just inside Jia Yan's destination, in the factory workshop, people were already boiling. In the afternoon, several workers saw the factory director leading 7 or 8 administrative staff to the outside world in a menacing manner. Then not long after, shouts and scoldings came from the jungle. Immediately afterwards, 2 middle-aged people, a man and a woman, were caught in the factory. This made everyone in the factory who witnessed the scene become even more suspicious because of their sensitive minds due to the insect bite incidents in the past few days. They are afraid that the factory where they work may really have some bad facilities. If it is really a state agency or a formal enterprise, how can people be arrested so casually? They thought about the way they entered the factory, that is, blindfolded, as if entering an authentic place, and walked for a long time before reaching the inside of the factory. Why does a factory have to be so hidden? It is said to be a national scientific research unit, but there seems to be something wrong with those so-called administrative staff and factory directors. Is there anything going on with Xiao Li and Lao Chen? The workers, who were already a little distraught, heard gunshots this time. What is that sound? Is there anyone setting off firecrackers in the factory? In the workshop, a middle-aged employee with sensitive ears raised his head. Really, hey, this doesn't look like firecrackers, could it be, gunshots? Let's stop for a moment and go to the door to listen. Some vigilant workers stopped the machines they were responsible for. After all, everyone has been speculating these days about what the factory does. If it is drugs, it will definitely be a matter of time before the police break in. Now what sounded like gunfire sounded outside, and these frightened people couldn't sit still. Someone took the lead and stopped working. Naturally, other workers on the assembly line could not work either, so they stepped down from their posts one by one. These people walked towards the door on the first floor one by one. At this time, in the dark water pipe connected to the sewer, a huge Anopheles sinensis mosquito was flying upward. The gunshots are already ringing, and I have to speed up. Listening to the conversations of the workers a few days ago, I know that they are quite suspicious of this factory, and some are even considering escaping from the factory. Now, whether they know it or not, this is the sound of gunshots. If you hear strange movements, you may take action. Even if the workshop still doesn't stop working, the Siberian wild tiger will definitely come forward and say something to them. People like this always think about things for a rainy day, and then it will still be my opportunity. I really don't need much time, just 10 minutes, no. Maybe 5 minutes is enough. Jia Yan thought so. His purpose was just some purple-red medicinal liquid. After working so hard for a little purple potion, it was really hard. Jia Yan quietly emerged from the workshop on the second floor again. Then, a different luster flashed in his compound eyes. There are really no workers in this workshop? Jia Yan tried to calm himself down. He made his body make as little noise as possible before crawling out of the observation port. The huge tank-shaped machine is right in front of you. There are two outlets, one is the pipe leading to your own side to discharge waste liquid. The other leads to the second floor opposite. This must be a finished product or a semi-finished product. Jia Yan's eyes flickered as he crawled towards the mechanical exit leading to the second floor. It makes too much noise when flying, and nearby workers will definitely notice it. I hope they won't come back soon. Jia Yan is ready to fly with all his strength. As long as someone returns to the workshop, he will fly directly, regardless of being seen, and get back into the water pipe to escape. Anyway, everyone here knows about the existence of mutated creatures. Jia Yan thought a lot, but missed one thing, that is, according to the personality of the Siberian wild tiger, would he not install cameras in the workshop? This is absolutely impossible. So at this moment, his quietly moving figure was clearly revealed in a certain surveillance screen in the surveillance room. If the security guard in the monitoring room sees it, he will definitely notify the Siberian wild tiger, and then someone will come forward to drive away and kill Jia Yan's huge mosquito. But at this time, there happened to be no one in the monitoring room. It turned out that the 4 people who appeared in the afternoon had used too much power from the Siberian wild tigers, and now the boy who escaped appeared and attacked the security guards outside. The security guards in the monitoring room were urgently notified to go out for reinforcements. Got it? I don't know whether this should be said to be Jia Yan's luck, or whether it should be said that he was well prepared and his decision to help Zhang Shiming invade the factory was the right one. Anyway, Jia Yan arrived at the other exit of the Ken-shaped machine without being discovered by the surveillance camera. He discovered that there was a switch port that could be pulled in the exit here, and the switch port was not big, and it seemed that it only required a small amount of effort to pull it. Jia Yan climbed up to the switch with 6 long legs, and then pulled hard towards the side that said open. Exert oneself. A little bit of movement, but not quite the trigger yet. Give me strength, Jia Yan used all 6 of his long legs to their maximum strength. Jia Yan's strength, after the second mutation, has become very huge. He doesn't know how strong he is now. He just knows that it has exceeded the limit of his size. This purple-red liquid it's like something that allows living things to transcend their limits. Jia Yan always exceeds his upper limit every time. So this time, with some force, the switch that was originally flipped by humans slowly started to move. Not enough, more. More. Jia Yan had 6 long legs, 3 of which were against the switch and 3 against the metal next to the switch. This made it easy to exert force, but at this time, with 100% explosive power, all 6 long legs began to tremble. The switch is moving slowly. Finally, after crossing a certain boundary, snapped. The switch was flicked to the on side. Because of Jia Yan's inertia, his mosquito body fell directly from the exit platform. But within 2 seconds, just hearing the sound of buzzing, Jia Yan fell down, had to spread his wings in the air, and flew up from the mid-air where he fell. It's better to make a little noise than to break your shit, right? He returned to the exit platform again. After the switch was turned on, a metal plate slid open under the mechanical force. The space under the metal plate was directly exposed to Jia Yan's side. There is no liquid medicine, just a channel made of metal. Get in. Jia Yan looked around, and it seemed that the workers would not come back immediately. After thinking about it, he decided to enter this passage. Jia Yan believes in the old saying, wealth can be found in danger. After his rebirth, he has encountered too many dangers and made too many dangerous decisions, but now he has achieved results. It is unimaginable for a mosquito. This is inseparable from the adventurous spirit that exists in his own bones. Now that he has decided to take the path of becoming stronger, he cannot be frightened by the slightest danger. Therefore, after Jia Yan's body shook twice, he entered the mechanical passage under the metal panel with a sudden sound. When Jia Yan entered the passage, the gunshots from the outside world instantly became more intense. I don't know how a college student who didn't know how to shoot a gun before could cause such a big disturbance in the enemy's lair. This classmate is really a godlike teammate. Jia Yan thanked the boy from the bottom of his heart for successfully attracting the enemy's attention. The channel under the metal plate is not very large, it is almost just a channel formed by a square metal tube with a diameter of 10 centimeters. Jia Yan looked ahead, that was where the stop tank-shaped machine was. Since the stuff in here is still being discharged with that kind of chemical waste liquid, it must not be a finished product. It may even be toxic because it contains chemical waste liquid. So Jia Yan gave up on entering the filling-shaped machine, but turned around and crawled towards the space on the other side of the exit. Over there, remember, it should lead to another building. Jia Yan remembered that the building on the other side was even more tightly guarded, and this strictness could be seen from the architecture. Of the 3 buildings that had been built for who knows how many decades, only this one was the most tightly packed and the most like a secret scientific research building. Base building. The finished purple-red medicinal liquid was born from there. I wonder what secrets this place has. Jia Yan climbed along the passage towards this most mysterious building. To be continued. Please collect it. Thanks to the Tiger Who Eats Pigs Brothers Funeral Committee, I laughed and cried and forgot, Xianyuan Ranzu, Depressed Fool, Slight Taste, Mr. Key and other book friends for their rewards. Thanks.